Well, ladies and gentlemen, looks like the efforts from the DEI consultancy firms that are trying to mask themselves as Genshin Impact players are apparently now trying to triple down at this point. I mean, they're well past doubling down. They're trying to triple down by increasing their efforts to try to boycott Genshin Impact, even though their efforts have failed miserably compared to last month's numbers. You know, Hoyoverse has gained an increase of about 10% in their revenue with their new game, Zenless Zone, whatever the hell it's called. That particular game has increased their revenue tenfold, and they have now just been winning so easily over this boycott that you got to wonder, how are these DEI consultancy firms going to continue to try to extort money from a company that is destroying them in every facet imaginable? So we have an article here from That Park Place with a headline that reads, Genshin Impact and Hoyoverse Boycotters rage and promise to escalate the efforts after the company's revenue increased nearly 10% despite their absolute fail of a boycott. Now, we haven't seen this big of a fail when it comes to a boycott since Hogwarts Legacy. You know, I'll always bring up Hogwarts Legacy because that game has to be the biggest egg on the face of woke losers on the internet who try to boycott the game, who try to shame you from playing the game, who try to go after streamers and put them on a list, right? If you decided to stream the game, they did everything they possibly could, and yet they completely failed to a drastic level, right? The game was the #1 selling game of the year with no mainstream support, no mainstream acknowledgement, no discussion around it, nothing. It was completely and utterly ignored, and yet it was a top-selling game of the year. So it just goes to show that these wokies don't mean a fucking thing when it comes to the overall conversation. So let's get into this article, guys, from That Park Place. But of course, before we do, if you are new here, just consider hitting that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it, and like the video to push us out into that YouTube algorithm. It says Genshin Impact and Hoyoverse Boycotters are not happy that the developer's revenue increased nearly 10% despite their ongoing failure of a boycott. Now, we went over the fact that they've made about almost $100 million from Zenless Zone Zero. This new game that they have raked in $100 million. And even though Honkai Star Rail and Genshin Impact have lost money over last month, you gotta imagine that's probably because a lot of players that would have spent money in those two games are now spending money in Zenless Zone Zero. So it's very clear that they just have a little bit of a shift, and this tends to happen whenever one particular, developer has multiple games that are live service and ongoing. This tends to happen, right? There's only so many customers to go around, and they're going to have to figure out where they're going to want to spend their money. And if they're going to go to the new game, it's probably going to be spent there. It just makes sense. In comparison, Hoyoverse grossed a total of $163 million between Honkai Star Rail and Genshin Impact in June. Thus, the company saw its revenues increase 8% between June and July. If you go back, it looks even better. Hoyoverse grossed $144 million between Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail. July's grosses are 23% higher than May, so they've just been killing it. All right, they've been killing it through and through. But let's talk about the fact that they're melting down. Despite the boycott clearly not having any effect whatsoever, boycotters are doubling down and promising to escalate their tactics. This sounds an awful lot like DEI consultancy firms, aka Kim Belair. I'm just saying, right? She literally gave you this strategy in her press conference. She said if they will not hire DEI consultancy firms, then what you need to do is you need to terrify their marketing departments. This seems like the strategy that these DEI consultancies employ themselves. So I just find it ironic that the boycotters that are boycotting Hoyoverse right now are acting extremely sus and extremely close to how the consultancy firms act when they want to get free money. Then it says that their ex-user Evan of Strats posted, "We're just getting started. The boycott isn't going anywhere until we achieve our goals. We will keep escalating until Hoyoverse stops whitewashing and provides authentic representation in their games." I cannot wait for you losers to get absolutely destroyed. I cannot wait because you're already getting destroyed as it is. It's been a month already, and you guys have been absolute failures. I cannot wait to see just how much more of a failure you are. You know what? To be honest with you, I don't even like Genshin Impact. I don't like Honkai Star Rail or anything. like that, I'm going to give Genshin Impact, or I'm going to give Zenless Zone Zero an extra shot. I'm going to give it simply because you dumb motherfuckers are trying to impress your worldview on everybody, right? You're trying to make a Chinese developer make black characters white so you can see yourselves. Like, let's be real. You don't give a fuck about that. That's not what this is about. You simply want to extort money from a developer that no DEI consultancy firm has been able to tap yet. There isn't a single Chinese-born developer, right, that actually has DEI consultancy firms working with them. Not a single one. There's other companies like Riot Games, for example, that was bought out by Tencent, but at the end of the day, Riot Games is still an LA-based company, okay? They're still an American-based company, so they have DEI consultancy firms. I don't know of a single Chinese-born developer that is making games for their audience that uses DEI consultancy firms. So you gotta imagine that these firms want this money. It's a lot of money to be had. Think about it. This company is making $160 million a month on average. It's insane. They can afford to pay a DEI consultancy firm one time, you know, $1 million, $2 million, whatever, to fix their image or whatever they're going to try to hire them for. But that's what they want, man. They want to extort these companies that nobody has been able to extort yet in this particular field. It is a gold mine for the first person that can convince these companies to hire them. It truthfully is. So then it says, Harbinger Girls posted, remember to keep boycotting and talking about the petition. Representation matters. Boycott Hoyoverse. The user added, don't forget to sign a petition if you haven't yet already. You guys are going to fail. There is no doubt about it. The petition, which currently has over 104,000 signatures, explains why these individuals are boycotting. It states, we call on Mihoyo to stop cultural appropriation and whitewashing in their games and to commit to respectful and accurate representation of all cultures. Who gives a fuck, bro? Let's be real. Okay, hold on. Time out. Like, this is a Chinese fucking developer, okay? The only people they gotta represent is themselves. It doesn't fucking matter, okay? If you're gonna play these games, if you're gonna play Chinese games, you must already know what their games are gonna look like, right? Just like when you play Japanese games, even though Japanese games is a little more diverse, but ultimately, at the end of the day, they're still pretty much, you know, you can expect what you're gonna get from those kind of games. You're not going to change the mold here, all right? Chinese developers are not fucking having it. You're trying to use communistic tactics against communists, bro. Like, that's not going to work. It continues that Mihoyo, a leading game development company, has repeatedly taken inspiration from indigenous cultures without proper representation and respect, whatever that means. In particular, the many characters from Sumeru and Natlin in Genshin Impact and from Penacony and Honkai Star Rail are all clearly white or lightly tanned at best, with the exception of some enemy NPCs, which has sparked concerns of racism among players and indigenous communities. Again, I don't know of a single indigenous community that is playing Genshin Impact and complaining about racism. I don't. The only people that I gotta imagine that are in that particular community that are complaining about Genshin Impact are the ones who are actually in the gaming scene, right? The ones who work for these DEI consultancy firms, they're the ones who are complaining about this stuff. And even then, it's probably like 2 people. Let's be real. It's probably like 2 people. Ultimately, they are just faking it until they make it. They are trying desperately to extort these Chinese developers to give them money. But at the end of the day, they're not going to get shit and they don't deserve it. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you did enjoy it. If you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.